Welcome to WagerTalk. We're back with kind of an Ask the Experts. It doesn't say that on the top of my screen, but we're talking about the 2019 NBA playoffs, who to bet on, who to avoid. I'm Kelly Stewart, joined by Teddy Covers, Ralph Michaels. Guys, the NBA is kind of a frustrating thing for me year in and year out, but Teddy and I do a little show, talk about teams that are streaking or teams that we want to bet on or not bet on, and the Magic did really well for us there.
Sure, that actually worked out really well.
And it was fun because I was just like, well, Teddy said to bet on the Magic, so I'm just going to play this team in the right situations. Sure enough. So do you have any of those situations or teams where we should be looking at throughout the playoffs?
Well, going into the postseason, in terms of bet-ons and bet-against, there's two teams that really stand out to me. Out of the, what do we have, 17 contenders?
Essentially.
The West is set, and the East there's still 9 teams fighting for 8 spots. So there's 17 out of the 17 teams. My bet against team is the Denver Nuggets, period.
Okay. Well, we know that the Nuggets have been terrible on the road for a vast majority of the season.
No, they've just been great at home. They've been good on the road. They've been one of the NBA's best point spread teams. There's a lot to like about Denver in the regular season, but teams that fit Denver's profile tend to do poorly in the postseason. They don't have the postseason experience. They don't have the one go-to guy. It's a team that has the depth without the superstar. It's a team that made their money winning games at home in an environment where other teams weren't awful focused in the altitude. And I look at Denver as being particularly vulnerable when you talk about the top 8 seeds, teams that are going to have home court edge in the first round. I look at the Nuggets as the most likely of those teams to face a real challenge in round 1.
Okay. Ralph, do you have a team that you're looking to bet on or maybe to avoid?
Well, a couple notes. I mean, in the last 4 years, double-digit favorites, 36-4 straight up, but 18-22 against the spread, 45%. So don't be so quick to lay double digits. It's much like the first round in the playoffs. If you have a 15-point lead and you know you're playing this team in 3 days, there's no reason to extend that lead to 20. And so a lot of times you come back. Over-unders in that situation, 16, 23, and 1. So again, you don't have that late game push. You don't have any fouls late if you're up by double digits. And also another situation to mention, teams with 6 days rest. You know, I saw this with Cleveland and LeBron. You sweep that first series and you're waiting for the second. Doesn't happen very often. And when you're on the road with 6 days rest, there's not a real big advantage. But if you're sweeping someone and you're getting them at home, since the 13-14 season, those teams are 8-2 against the spread, 80% in their first home game after that rest. Two teams that I'll look to play on early is Toronto and Houston, and both are just basically because they've been there and done that. Toronto is so happy that LeBron went to the West. I mean, they basically paid for his moving expense. Here you go. Well, let's get you out of here. But, you add Kawhi to that team now and you give them someone else that can score late, and for them to get to the finals each of those past couple of years and even challenge Cleveland, even when Cleveland was the much better team with LeBron. I mean, when you got up to the Air Canada Center, is that where Toronto is? It's just a special home court where I think they're going to control home court, and I think they could steal a few road games. And Houston may seem like an obvious pick with what they've done, but you have to remember that Houston played so much without CP3 and so much without Capella this year, and now they're back. That another team with that experience that's been there and done that. And in that same point of view, I'm going to be afraid to lay a big home favorite number with Milwaukee, being now in this target bullseye on your back when you have the MVP and the number 1 seed, well, potential MVP, and the number 1 seed. That bullseye on that pressure for a team that hasn't been there and had that pressure, I think can hurt a team early.
So do you think that comes with maybe a sense of public perception also, that you may be paying a premium to bet teams?
Well,
like
Milwaukee's
that?
unique because, I don't know how many people would see Milwaukee as the elite team in the East. They've started to finally get the recognition they deserve. But, it's not like when the Cavs were there but I think there's a lot of pressure they put on themselves in this situation.
And at no point in the NBA playoffs is the public involved in the public doesn't move lines, the public doesn't influence the line, the public is a non-factor when it comes to NBA playoff lines. It's all wise guys and all wise guy money. I want to talk about my one bet against team.
Okay.
Because I talked about, my one bet on team. I talked about the Nuggets as a bet against. My bet on team, I'm hoping, knock, 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 they'll end up playing
That is
each other
not
in the
wood.
first round. I know. What do you want me to know?
Oh, you're hoping they're going to play the Nuggets in the first round.
You
They
better
probably
believe
are.
it. Yeah,
I
well,
mean, most likely,
that's
right,
not most
yes.
likely. There's a big game tonight.
Yes.
That will determine that. We're recording on Wednesday. That team, the San Antonio Spurs. And you talked a lot about experience, teams that have been there before. Experience matters in the postseason. In the NFL, in the
Give
NBA.
me pop, right?
Well, I think it matters more in the NBA than NHL, NFL, MLB by far. With the 7-game series,
Agree.
the experience factor is real. And when you got LaMarcus Aldridge, and when you got DeMar DeRozan, and you got Rudy Gay, and you got Pop, I'm interested in you as an underdog, period. And that Spurs team, man, we've seen them do it all year, especially over the second half. When their shooters get hot, you can't beat that team. And I think San Antonio is dangerous in the first round of the NBA playoffs.
For your Spurs plays, I'll put this out on Twitter tomorrow, and I ran the numbers, but I didn't write them down. Teams with 2 or more days rest, the Spurs had the second or third best record against the spread this year. They're an older team. Well, they're not older
They
this
got a
year.
couple
No,
of
right.
veterans,
Yeah, I shouldn't say that. I'm going back to my last year's. But they play well with that added rest. And in these playoffs, we know how extended they are. What is it, like 4 months long now? You have that rest in between the games where there's no back-to-back games, and there's rarely even 2 games in 3 days in the playoffs.
All right. Play on the Spurs. Play against the Nuggets. Ralph, do you have a play on or a play against?
Play against Milwaukee as a double-digit favorite, and my play-ons, Toronto and Houston.
All right, great stuff from both guys. $9 Monday at WagerTalk. Get all daily packages for Monday's action, plus any early college basketball, NHL, NBA, priced at only $9. That includes any 5% best bets, normally priced at $30.